Okay, I wanted to make a video on some tips and tricks on restoring my 1977 Dodge D100 instrument clutch. Of course, this would work for 1975 to 1980. As you see, though, this is actually a 1975 because of the metal housing on the instrument cluster. Not that it really matters. You can put it in any year of those trucks. But I just want to kind of go over things that you might want to test when pulling these out, going through them before you get it all back in, and it's really difficult to get to. Um, you know, there's some options that Chrysler offered though too on some of these gauges that were kind of cool. Back then, like a clock. This is one of the things that's going to go back in my truck, and also obviously the factory tack. Um, Now this tack though, I actually had rebuilt by a guy named Brent up in Canada, Mr. Heaterbox. Of course, most people know, right? Um, Obviously, you can go to his website to reach out to him. They also do gauge decals, which I used in this gauge setup. As you can see, I think came out incredible. It's basically a decal that overlays over the old face of the gauge, giving you clear, crisp numbers. The white, maybe it's brown or faded. Um, but yeah, definitely a cool thing, that he offers. You can kind of see right there. Also, the boards, as well as most of you guys know, these boards a lot of times got repaired with solder, bad circuits burned up on them. You do need to specify when you order this though. 1975 is actually different than 76 through 80 when you buy these, because if you try to put one of a later, if you're using the metal housing, you need this part number right here. If you're using the later ones, you can use this one. So that's a P0047. It's because of this right here. There's no cutout in the provisions of the housing. Um, for what I think these are capacitors, and it won't actually physically go in. So make sure you're ordering the right stuff. Um, Something else that is cool that he offers is a voltage limiter. I believe these are solid state, so they're a lot better than the factory ones, and definitely a lot better than the Chinese cheap crap that you can buy, that doesn't really work out of the box sometimes or can wipe out your gauges. I believe I'm not mistaken, these have like a fail safe in them so that if they fail, it fails open and it won't burn up your gauges. Um, but I believe I paid 50 or 60 bucks for one, right? I got a couple because I got another set that I'm gonna do for another vehicle I've got. But um, definitely highly recommend. And on those, you can actually test them. You can see this is the ground comes in, and then on the other side, you got your voltage output in the middle. I can show you here. These jumpers in the middle here is where the voltage comes in. You can see from your prong, right? So that's going to be your 12 volts. And then coming out on this is the output side, should be 5 volts going to your gauges. You don't want to send more than 5 volts to your gauges because it can actually burn them up. And that's the whole point of this, is it's stepping down the voltage so that the gauges get the correct voltage. Um, the worst thing you can do is, like, I had a gauge that set that I put in one of my cars. I didn't test it. I just put everything together. Thought the gauges would have been good. and then I get it in the car and it doesn't work. So it could be that, it could be the gauges themselves. So that's why I would highly recommend doing like a bench test and kind of going through and making sure your lights work. Um, I even went with LED 194 bulbs to make the gauge pop more. It's a lot more brighter than the factory bulbs to me. Um, so that's why I recommend doing that. Now, for testing this, I would recommend some sort of adjustable power supply, or something that you can limit the voltage on, because I don't like sending more than 5 volts to my gauges. Obviously, you could test through this, um, but then yeah, you just need to go off the pin here, and I've done that. Um, so on this guy, there's a power supply that I ordered off of Amazon. I think it was like 30 or 40 bucks. It works off a Milwaukee battery. It's pretty freaking cool. You can actually go in here and you can adjust the voltage. So you can sit there, select what voltage you want. For this test, obviously, I'm doing 5 volts, right? And then when I'm ready to send voltage out, I'll just hit out. So figuring out, obviously, you're going to have a positive and negative. I also fuse protected when I got this, I crimped in a fuse. So I got a fuse protection, so just in case, I mess up, I don't burn something up, it'll pop the fuse hopefully. And then I got a ground power. So when looking at the gauges, right, obviously anything that's connected to the voltage limiter is going to be your positive side. So this is going to be the voltage coming out of it. So you can kind of see this is the positive. When this floats over here, this is the positive. This is the positive. Obviously, this is your amp gauge, so that's different. But your ground is going to be what comes from your pins. So that's your signal coming from your sensors, like your low pressure, your not low oil pressure, but oil pressure gauge. Sorry. Um, so you got fuel, your temperature, and then your oil pressure. So let's look. Let's start with the fuel. So I'll show you how this works. So obviously this is going to be my voltage. So that's going to be my hot lead. Let me get this over here. This is going to be my ground. Just make sure nothing's touching, right? And then see that, like that. I'm going to hit out. That's going to send the voltage out. And if you're looking, you can kind of see the gauge start to go up. Okay, max is out. I know it's good. So take the voltage out. Should creep back down. Now, there is, I do have, and I don't have it here on the bench. Another thing you could throw into the scenario, because I know there's going to be guys in the comments talking about why don't you have a variable resistor, and I do. Actually, right here, something like this you can order on Amazon as well, or make your own. But essentially, you're taking a resistance value. So you take the ground, come over here, and then out here, right? And then that way you can adjust how much, and it's going to make the gauge move, uh, depending on how much resistance you're giving it. I've already done that on this, so I already know. But this is more or less just demonstration purposes. So we're just gonna kind of, I'll do the old pressure gauge next to kind of just show you. So old pressure, obviously this is my ground because that's connected to the pin. This is my voltage. So I'm gonna go here and here. Okay, out. Same thing. All right, so I know that works. Now, obviously, this isn't like making sure the gauges are calibrated, and using the resistor would give you probably a better idea if that's calibrated correctly. Um, let's let's light up the lights so that you guys can see. So in the lights, it's going to be a 12 volt. So one side, so this is our ground, this is our hot for our lights. So we're looking at that. And then what I like to do is I'll just ground the case. So right here. So we know we're grounded. Okay, this is going to be 12 volts because it's the lights. So I'm going to go. Okay, and I'll hit out, and then voila, you have lights. And you guys can kind of see that. It's pretty bright. So if I go off, see, pretty neat. Pretty cool. So that's the lights, testing the lights. Obviously you can go through and test because I believe there's more than one on this one. So I think this side is going to be different. So you go here. And I actually have a pigtail that I made also to do it through a pigtail. It's kind of easier, but that's just showing you here. So those are my turn signals, or my, looks like my right. And the other side, that's my other turn signal. You can see that. And so you can kind of go around and trace everything out just by looking at it. That's what I like about this. It's fairly easy. You just follow the circuit. All right. Kind of figured you guys might want to see what this tack looks like. So if you guys decide you wanted to send one off to Mr. Heaterbox, um, so obviously I don't have a signal generator for the tack. Trying to build one at the moment, but I want to have it where I can actually go through and test tacks and stuff. But just for this is just going to power it on and make it light up. I haven't got to put it in the truck yet. I'm hoping to do that in the next couple weeks. Okay, so we'll look at the front. And so it'll do, this is lights the light, does its sweep. So it's basically just turning the gauge on. But this is what you get when you send a factory gauge off to him. You have to have um, what would you say, a core to give him, and he's going to take the internals out and put a modern gauge essentially inside this that looks factory from the outside, which is really cool because this will work with all modern ignition systems like a MSD, or I think he can even do one for a Cummins diesel truck. It'll just work with pretty much anything. So it's a lot better. The old stuff, don't get me wrong, was good. It's just every tack I've ever bought, and I have like 5 or 6 of them, none of them work. They're just basically at this point shelf ornaments. Um, Something else I wanted to go over was um, the needles. I always like to paint my needles. If you notice, the needles are pretty brightly orange colored. So there is, if you get on Amazon, or I think even Mr. Heaterbox sells sells it, but it just depends on what you want to buy. They make instrument cluster needle paint that you can touch up the orange with. So also, what's kind of cool is, so like on these gauges, like my tack and my clock, this bezel I bought on on eBay, and there was no chrome there. And I don't know if they're supposed to be. This may just be supposed to be black, but I wanted it to look fresh and chrome because my bezel is going to be chrome. And if you can see, it is now. Amazon, this paint is the closest thing to a chrome, and it is pretty spot on, that you're going to get. There was nothing here. Nothing. It was completely black. That's, I mean, you look at that, that looks like the factory chrome you would get. And I use it to touch up the places around the gauges, right? Kind of freshen it up, make it look good. Obviously, I still got a decal to put on that this is missing when I got it, but and then you have the brackets. You can buy these from Dodge Connection, I believe, Dodge Truck Connection. Um, but I thought this was cool. Like, you can go through this stuff yourself a lot of times, and if you take your time, like I polished my lenses. Like when I pulled this plastic piece off, I ground the back of um, these little nubs that are on the back. I just ground them off with a Dremel tool. They were like kind of glued or melted into the plastic, pulled it apart, and then that gave me enough access to go through and take, there's buffing compound for plastic lenses like you'd use on headlights or, anything that's plastic. And then I used it to polish with a little polishing tool, like on a little pad on a right hand grinder would work, a Dremel tool, whatever, and just go through and just slowly polish it. Spend your time getting it nice and clean, and it came out incredible. I mean, when you have your lenses all clean, it really makes it pop. So I would highly recommend, kind of going through, cleaning it up, repainting it. I repainted the black and all that. But yeah, this is my short little video on kind of what to do. Hopefully, this is a help to someone out there going through and doing this themselves. Because I know that if you send it off to someone, you could spend upwards of $1,000 or more, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're trying to build something on a budget, or if you just like doing things yourself, um, completely within your means to do, um, be capable of going through, if you don't mind doing the little tedious stuff. But yeah, I will probably be posting some more videos and some stuff, other things as the time goes along. But yeah, uh, please drop comments if you got questions, or you want, need any other info that maybe you've seen in this video. Just let me know. Thanks.